Make sure me was listening.
I've moved you all. There we go. Better jump. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Matt Geary here for the Geek Pridecast on this Sunday evening. Happy New Year, everybody. It is now 2022. And with me tonight in our new year, we have John Joe Cosgrove.
Oh my God, we're back again.
And Peter Ray Allison.
Happy New Year, everyone.
So, gentlemen, I guess it would be quite, it would be rude of me not to ask you how your Christmas and New Year's went. So, how did it go?
Okay, good. Well, yeah, pretty good actually. I mean, got to spend time with the family and see everyone and do the family things and get some board games. Got a new expansion for Mansions of Madness. So, yay, more insanity. So some board game nights with the family. We've got to play Agricola together.
What's Agricola? Is that
Agricola? It's a farming-based board game.
Okay.
And Kaylee loved it. It's a very much a Marmite game. You either love it or loathe it. Kaylee absolutely adores it. Michael enjoyed it. My youngest really enjoyed it because who's only 5. He was on son Curly's team, and he just had a whale of a time. For me, it's a very abstract game, which I'm not that keen on, but I just still did enjoy it.
Okay, cool, nice.
Yeah, so it's a really nice, and they've got different variations. So you've got the basic Agricola, then you've got like the family edition and 2-player edition. So the various types you can actually get into, which are more in keeping with your play style and like how you typically play the game. We got the family edition, which is streamlined, slightly simpler and more accessible, which is great for when you got kids. And then we've got Mansions of Madness, which isn't great for kids.
What age are your kids again?
5, 10, and 13. I mean, okay, my 13-year-old will be fine with it, but the 5-year-old, not so much.
Yeah. It's a very unforgiving game, so.
Mansions of Madness can be quite. It depends on the mission you're playing in Mansions of Madness, especially the second edition. You kind of got like difficulty ratings from like the 1 to 5, and one of the new missions we unlocked in the Beyond the Threshold expansion we got was only like a 2-player difficult. It's like 2-star difficulty, and rather than the typical hunt the monster, it was you have got a murder to solve.
Okay.
So they're really doing kind of innovative things within the board game structure that they've developed. I mean, and it is basically Call of Cthulhu, the role-playing game, as a board game.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we did that a few years back. Me, Sean Wallace, and Sam, Laurie, and Ben Fee did the Call of Cthulhu RPG, and it was something completely different. I hadn't done that before. And I really enjoyed it. I didn't think I would, but yeah, it was.
It's when you after playing like D&D and Star Wars, the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game is vastly different in terms of playstyle and themes than for want of a better term, typical role-playing game. It's not like go out there, kill the monsters, get an XP. It's more like go out there, see the monsters, run screaming insane. It's considered a good thing if you die.
Yes. Yes.
Because either the other option is you go insane and die. I mean, I am very kind of like what's the word? Like simplifying the whole experience, because it's all about investigating the unknown and slowly becoming insane as you realize the true, awful, horrific insanity of what's facing you. And like obviously it's Lovecraft fiction, but and also there are vastly different types of Lovecraft fiction out there. I mean, Titus Crow novels, for example, which are very Lovecraftian in setting and style, but thematically they are quite different. I mean, as the author put it, and I'm afraid I'm blanking on his name, I think it was the guy that did the Necroscope. No, Brian Lumley, that was it. Brian Lumley. He said, as he put it, my heroes aren't wusses.
Okay.
He said, my heroes go down kicking and screaming. It's like, okay. And they do. Like there's a much more heroic slant to his novels. But in H.P. Lovecraft original books, people went exploring, saw things, and went horrifically insane. Prime example of this is the just for Christmas, and if you check out my review on the Geek Pride website, is volume 2 in at the Mountains of Madness, which are these full color art books, like recreating H.P. Lovecraft's classic work, but as an art book, and it's gorgeous artwork. And again, people go exploring, find something weird, go exploring, there's something weird, go horrifically insane when screaming. The end. And to be honest, that's the typical structure of most H.P. Lovecraft novels. Incredibly well written, also utterly racist. But yeah, he's got a lot to answer for.
Yeah. John Joe, what have you been up to? How did your New Year Christmas go?
Oh, do you know what? Christmas was fine. I spent Christmas with a partner who obviously does not do any of the geeky stuff at all. So that's like for, we have the thing like, we have our time together. We do the usual family stuff. We do the usual, passing of the presents. We have dinner. We have a laugh. We do party games with the family. And then it's like, afterwards, I think I spent about 4 or 5 days straight on PlayStation just playing Death Stranding. Actually, of all games I could pick, I decided I was going to be a delivery man for a week,
Yeah, I've not played it. I've not played it. It just looks batshit crazy.
Joe, I bought it back in 2019 when it first came out, and for the life of me, I just couldn't get on with it. I got about 6 or 7 hours in, I put it down, and I was like, I just don't get, and I hate myself for it because I absolutely love any game by Hideo Kojima. I played all the Metal Gear Solids, including like the Metal Gear back from the 80s as well. Death Stranding was like just it went a bit too weird for me. But a few weeks ago, I thought, let's try it again. Let's pick it back up. And I am no lie, I'm about 35 hours into the game since about middle of last week. I've just been hooked on it. I've been really enjoying it. I'm enjoying the world building. I'm enjoying the slow progression of the story. And even if I try to describe to you what Death Stranding was about, if I was to even try and tell you what Norman Reedus' character means to this world and what he's trying to do to basically try and save the world, I don't think I could, even with the time that I've had with the story. It is just so fucking weird. But I think what makes it more accessible now is that it is a world that's kind of like disconnected. So you've got people that are stuck in their own places. They can't go outside for whatever reason, a good majority of them. The ones that do go outside have to have like all protective gear. And it's like, it's like, my God, this kind of like was a foreshadow for what was to come. It's very frightening, but it's just been a lot of fun. I've just really enjoyed it. And I don't think anyone could honestly say they could have that much pleasure from going around delivering packages, rebuilding roads, and setting up machinery. That's basically doing it in a very like simple way. Oh, and also trying to avoid these shadow creatures that if they grab you, they will kill you. They will suck out your soul. You have to then try and get your soul back into your body. You come back to the land that you were in, but you're now sitting in a giant crater because your body basically exploded and made basically created a crater that's about 1/4 of a mile radius around. It's weird. Yeah, it really is. But I've enjoyed it so much, and I'm looking forward to the next 35 hours or whatever I've still got to do on this. But apart from that, Christmas was kind of a Spiderman thing. Before Christmas, I went to go and see the film with some friends. After Christmas, I took my sister to go and see it. And there is such a thing as a film that is made for cinema, that's made for the big screen, and that just proved to me that whereas a lot of people go, oh no, cinemas are dead. Cinemas have no place in the world now. I think watching that film just made me believe if I'd seen that on a normal TV screen, I think I would have been disappointed. I would have been ashamed of myself. And obviously, I can't say to people, yes, go outside, go to the cinema, because a lot of people still ain't in that right frame, really. Some people still are not prepared to get to them kinds of experiences again. But having that movie just made me think, my God, this is so incredible. And I really don't want to spoil it because I know, Pete, you haven't seen it yet. I know you haven't watched it.
Oh, no way, really?
I'm not going to say a word.
My daughter, me and my family, well, more accurately, me and my two eldest have seen every MCU film together. We sat down and watched them together. And then, midway through last month, my daughter turned to me, who's now 13, and said, Daddy, I'm going to go and see Spiderman No Way Home with my friends.
Oh, I must get right in the feels.
And that was just... You've seen Spiderman.
What age is she? Is she the 15-year-old?
13.
13-year-old.
She's a teenager. And like those partners said, yeah, I want to go see Spider-Man No Way Home with my friends. And it was just like, but we watched every MCU film together. Yes.
Joe, in some ways it's funny, but in other ways it does feel heartbreaking.
It was just like, I'm going to milk that. I mean, what's galling is that I had to take her to the cinema and pick her up afterwards.
You should have just gone in yourself, man. Like, I went on my own. I didn't get to see it until New Year when I got back from Northern Ireland. So, and I was just like, I was meant to go with Mira, but she couldn't get a babysitter. So I just went, right, I just got on my own, and I took myself off into Stockport and went and sat there in between a load of people on my own. And yeah, so you should have just gone, right, okay, you can go with your friends. Daddy's going as well, though.
What I was tempted to do was actually go myself and buy tickets to myself and just sit behind them the entire time. But no, okay, I was
throwing popcorn at them and stuff.
Yeah,
that's what you get for betraying me.
No. But I had to drop them off, pick them up, and I've been guilt tripping it ever since, as I should.
I don't blame you.
It's a thorough, like, no, obviously no, there will be no spoilers here and stuff, so don't worry about it. It's thoroughly enjoyable. Definitely top five Marvel films, I think. It's it's quite emotional in parts. It's quite intense, and it's got a lot of surprises and stuff. So yeah,
I think as well, without obviously spoiling it, I think there is a lot of moments that are. There's a lot of people saying there's a lot of fan servicing. I wouldn't call it fan servicing. I think it's actually just rewarding people that have stuck with Spider-Man for all these years. It gives you that sense of, like, I'm glad this has happened, or I'm glad we saw this happen in the film, or I'm glad so-and-so did this. And
it's basically paying off people that have, rewarding people that are kind of stuck with it, and also answering questions and resolving plot threads that were established in previous films, which is what you want. You don't want, dangling plot threads, plot strands unanswered. You want something, even if it's like a film or so down the line, you want it answered and resolved, so the character can move forward and move on to new stories.
Obviously, this isn't a spoiler because you've seen it in the trailers.
Yep.
But that first moment when you see Alfred Molina's Doc Ock, I tell you, it is a sight to believe. Just when you just see the the arms just coming through the ground, and it's kind of frightening, but at the same time, it brought me back to 2004 straight away, because it's just like, wow, this is the character that I remember, and I was just like, I'm fucking impressed. This is
the guess. I was never, I wasn't a massive fan of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, and I haven't, and I didn't see the Andrew Garfield ones because I wasn't I wasn't a massive fan of the Tobey Maguire ones and stuff. But it's the new Spider-Mans, the ones with Tom Holland in it, have really sort of kind of, it's like the new. It was like Batman. I was never a massive fan of the Tim Burton Batmans. I didn't hate them. I just, I wasn't, a massive fan of the Tim Burton ones. But then when the Christopher Nolan ones came in, I was like, oh yeah, a bit more visceral, a bit more sort of kind of dark and stuff.
Grounded.
Yeah, grounded and stuff. So I kind of liked that. And I think that with the Tom Holland Spider-Man films, they are a bit more. I don't know. They as much as there's the Marvel comedy side to things, they're a bit more grounded. And I kind of like that. And this one more so than the others, I think, as well. It is definitely a bit more sort of kind of like it pulls at the heartstring. You can definitely his emotion is very much shown quite a lot throughout it and stuff. And it's it's very good. Yeah. And I'm very mindful that if we carry on talking about this, we're going to spoil things.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you, Matt. I mean, I enjoyed the Tobey Maguire ones. The first one especially. Second one, yeah, it was okay.
I think the second one is good, but I think with the second one, I think there is moments. I think there is moments that obviously they go a bit too cliche.
Yeah.
Obviously, and the whole losing the powers.
Yeah. But also, I think what makes the Tom Holland Spider-Mans is the villains are very grounded. Like, I still think like Vulture in the first Spider-Man MCU Spider-Man film is just a fantastic villain because you sympathize with him. You know exactly where he's coming from. His, you understand like why he's doing what he's doing. Okay, he's absolutely, he's stealing, robbing, and hurting people, but you can appreciate his motives, and I think that's what nailed it for me.
Well, that's the best bad guys are always ones with a bit more depth to them. And ones who are just bad because they're bad. It's always the ones that, and I think this becomes more of a trope. As much as it's good, it's becoming a bit more of a trope these days, but it's always, I was a good guy and then shit happened and that made me a bit jaded towards sort of things. Therefore, I became a bit of a shithead because I'm trying to get revenge. And it does make
Sorry, go on.
It makes them a bit more relatable, I think, to people. And you can kind of not get behind them, but you sort of like, yeah, kind of understand where he's going for, and it sort of kind of pulls at your sort of kind of moral compass slightly, because you're like, yeah, if that was me, would I have done the same thing? And I like that. I like that in my bad guys. I like a bit. It's like I'm as you know, I'm a massive 40k nerd and stuff, and especially in the Horus Heresy type things. There's a lot of the sort of ruinous powers type of all the ones who fall to the ruinous powers. They've not done it straight just because they're bad guys. They've done it because they were forced into it. And I kind of like that about this sort of kind of, a bad guy who's not truly bad. They've just sort of taken a different path, and that's just
a good guy forced to make bad decisions.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, as we're talking about MCU stuff, I'm going to assume that both of you have watched the whole Hawkeye series.
Yeah, I watched that over Christmas.
I'm going to be possibly caught controversy here and say it might be my favourite out of all of them.
I think I could almost agree. I think the first two episodes are a little bit plodding, but then obviously you have to build up that background. You have to kind of, But what I like about it, if I can go through three very quick points, it's probably the most grounded series out of all we've seen on Disney Plus, because at the end of the day, as even Hawkeye says, he's a guy with a stick, basically. A stick and a bit of string. That's basically him. Second, we've got the fantastic setting of New York, which obviously, has been the centre to many of the MCU actions that we've seen over the last 13 years. And third of all, basically, it's not. We could say it's not a spoiler because this came out nearly 4 weeks ago, and they've plastered it all over the Facebook page and everything. Vincent the fucking D'Onofrio back as Kingpin. That was
my brother surprisingly had never seen Daredevil, so we were watching watching Hawkeye, and I was just like, I feel like I can't say that now because I'm gonna ruin other things and stuff, but we were watching it, and he was just like, "Oh, I've not seen. I said, it's Kingpin, and he was just like, oh, who's he? And I was just like, have you not seen Daredevil? And he went, no, I've not. I didn't. I wanted to, but I've not got to it. I said, oh man, you need to watch Daredevil.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brilliant. You know, Fisk's in it and stuff, and he is such a good bad guy. Like literally one of the top sort of kind of Marvel villains and stuff. Just his sort of kind of the very sort of chilled, reserved, you know, methodical, and then he just has these like he's like a elastic band. You know, he's being pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled, and then he just breaks. And then when he goes, and it's just like it's amazing when he just kicks off. But and he just went and watched they literally hammered the Daredevil series and the Punishers and stuff. He said, oh, awesome, why did I not watch these before and stuff.
But do you know, I think when that first series of Daredevil came on, you got to remember that was like the first real exploration into like a long form TV side to the MCU. Obviously, apart from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but this was like, you know, taking a different angle, going a different route. And Daredevil, I kind of took me a few episodes to warm up to it, but as soon as Vincent D'Onofrio came on the screen, and you just see this guy who, like you say, you know, he's calm, he's very particular, but you know, he's clever, he knows what he's doing, he has an idea, he has his control, and this is a guy that, you know, as you say, it builds up and builds up and builds up, and then when you have that scene when he attacks the guy with the car door,
oh man, brilliant,
that was like one of them things. It was like, my God, this is in a Marvel show, and it's just like not like one hit or two hits. It's about 20 whacks to the head, and it's just like, shit, you know.
See, that's the one thing about that I really sort of kind of got me about it, right? Because DC, the films were always quite gritty and dark and violent, and Marvel was a bit kitsch and sort of kind of funny and a bit more sort of kind of slapstick and stuff, you know, and obviously that's what got it a bit more. I think people enjoyed it a bit more because it wasn't too serious. It didn't take itself too seriously. Whereas when they started the series, you know, DC went, you know, obviously the Arrow was a bit more serious to start off with, but then they kind of went the more comical way with their series. Whereas the Marvel switched and went more serious and more dark and more visceral and stuff. And it was just like, you know, it was a bit of a juxtaposition, but it worked for them because, you know, you were used to that sort of kind of happy clappy, sort of kind of, you know, one-off jokes type things going on. And then suddenly you had, you know, ultra violence. Yeah, like the car door, like some properly sort of messed up stuff. But yeah.
I really enjoyed the Hawkeye. I especially liked the fact, I mean, as you were saying, John, like it was like, this is what it means to be a human hero in a world of a living god, a super soldier, hypertech, and he's a guy with a bow and arrow. And what does it mean to be human? And what is the impact of it? Like the fact when he comes after a basically he goes home and he basically just straps kind of chill, frozen food to him, like just the bruises. You know, just like the fact he's got hearing loss because of all the explosions.
Yes, I love that. Those little things.
And the little touch as well, because I know, oh, could he talk to this side? Why? Is that because of some spy thing? No, I'm deaf in this, so you could talk to that side, please. And it's the little touches like that of like, I've been to one too many Wasp gigs in the time, and I'm paying the price for it. So basically, I'm slightly deaf in one ear, not as bad as Clint Barton or Echo, but it's still there, and just kind of. But I have to say, like, just talking that ear, please. And so it's good, just little notes like that, which ground the character even further and what it means. And it's great to like also the payoff. Something they set up in the Black Widow film as well. You get to see the showdown between Yelena and Clint. And that was like, and my only criticism, and I say this in the very broadest sense of the word, is that whilst everything in like the first few episodes was very, you know, interwoven, you could see everything interconnected. The final episode felt very disconnected. But I suspect that is due to having to film with COVID restrictions, where they had to kind of minimise crossover to the extent.
Yeah. So, I think when they were obviously putting together Hawkeye, as we've seen with other MCU projects, I reckon they gave this whole wish list and said, right, this is what we want in the show. that. And they go, Joe, what, we'd like to have Yelena because, you know, we could tie up that story. And they're probably like, at first, well, we don't know if we can definitely get Florence Pugh back into it. Okay, well, we'd like to get Kingpin because, you know, why not go to New York and have New York's most fearsome villain?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, okay, well, we'll see about that. And according to Vincent D'Onofrio, he got the call back in January of 2021. They'd already been filming Hawkeye for 2 months at that point. So if D'Onofrio is telling the truth, and let's be honest, he loves Marvel. He loves playing Kingpin. I don't think he's lied at all. So to be told 2 months into production, yes, you're coming back, I don't think that he was always going to be the plan. He was always going to be the planned character that's going to be introduced back into that side of it. But I'm glad he is because it really ties up well, especially with, you know, the character of Echo, because anyone who has any knowledge of the comics knows that Echo is basically, well, she's referred to as the niece, you know, going to her Uncle Wilson every now and again for whatever support. And even just when Vincent D'Onofrio is brought in, he's wearing that outfit. That outfit is literally out of the Hawkeye comic book. And he has even said, that was my idea. I wanted them to do that costume. It's like,
how did it end? I'm trying to think. Where did it? Because it's been a while since I saw the Daredevil. How did it end with him? Did he?
He lost to because he fought against Matt Murdock again just after Matt Murdock had put Bullseye basically into hospital. And that was when Wilson Fisk learnt that, you know, it's a blind man who's just beaten him, you know. And they kind of had this thing like, you know, he goes, oh, well, I'll go to prison. Something like, I'll go to prison, but, you know, I'll be out and I'll be waiting for you, kind of thing. It was like that.
All right, yeah. That was a big fight in the apartment or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was it. When he was obviously back in the old black costume instead of the
that's
Daredevil outfit.
That I remember now.
But do you know what? Hawkeye altogether, I think, did actually have some of the best performances from the Disney Plus shows altogether. There was just some, and I think as well, you know, from watching WandaVision, you're going to get something really weird. You know, from watching Loki, you're going to get something that's very interdimensional, very out there. To have something that kind of brought it back almost to where the MCU first started, you know, having this very grounded set of characters, having no real powers to talk of. I mean, loads of trick arrows, which really did steal the show in episode 3. That was great, especially the PIM technology arrows. You know, that was touch.
They've really kind of played with the idea of trick arrows as well. And I really kind of like that. Like, you don't just those are too dangerous. And like Kate just fires it out, like, causes the van to explode. She goes, there's something more dangerous than that.
But you know, it's the PIM arrow, the one that becomes like 50 foot long.
Yeah,
that was brilliant. I just love that bit. It also, it's just like
that. I mean,
oh boy,
you got to remember, this is essentially a TV budget they're making a show with, and it's one of the best car chases I've seen on a television show.
Oh yeah, that was good.
You're talking about kind of like movie level effects. But on a TV show budget, admittedly with like the beam of that is Marvel MCU behind it, but still, it's essentially a TV show budget.
Where they had obviously the best bit of the Hawkeye series is obviously Steve Rogers the musical. But where, you know, there's another character in the lineup of the Avengers.
Ant-Man.
Right. Do you want the easy explanation to this one?
Why? What's the other option to this?
The other one is where we're on this till midnight going through it.
Right, okay.
No. Basically, Pete's like, no, I've got things to do. No, but well, pretty much. Go back to Endgame when every character was going back in time to, you know, go and save the world. You know, we had Scott Lang, who was with Steve Rogers and Tony Stark, and they were in New York during the Battle of New York in 2012. And, you know, it doesn't take a genius to, you know, think, hang on, there's all these superheroes going around. Even Hulk had to go and blend in to, because you can't hide a 8 foot tall green man, so he had to obviously go and do his bit. Obviously, Ant-Man was known to the world at the time. Someone must have spotted Ant-Man, because he didn't really make it too much of a secret that he was going around the place. Especially when he's knocking the case over. I'm sure it wasn't just Loki that saw the Tesseract case move. Someone from S.H.I.E.L.D. must have went, that was probably Ant-Man that did that.
Right.
Who? Oh, Hank Pym.
Right.
Yeah. So that's why Ant-Man is basically there. And what I like as well is I like how cheap they do the costumes as well for the musical. Yeah. It's not like proper. It's not like proper set outfit. That basically looks like if they made the Avengers back in the 90s with like such a shoestring budget. Be like, yeah, we'll give you a T-shirt. That'll be fine, won't it? It's got the logo.
But they give you the full music. This is the one thing which is really bizarre. The end sequence after the credits is the full song from the musical, and it's not a great song, to be fair. No, but
yeah, I think one of the creators did say that at the end of the show, like they did with the other MCU ones, the majority of them got a post-credit scene. And what he said was he could have put in something that would have teased a future project, but he said to them it felt more fun to kind of give something a bit more light-hearted, just basically say, this is closing out the year. This is basically MCU coming back after a year off, and they just went, well, why not do something that's a bit unexpected and a bit fun? And come on, even at the end of it, you must sing in, I can do this all day.
Yeah, I can do this all day.
Yeah, I liked it best just with purely for Clint's reaction.
Yeah.
As you can see his expression like good.
Yeah.
It was like, okay. He's like switched off his hearing aid. Hearing aid, and just had enough for a bit. Like,
I thought that was brilliant. It's just like, yeah.
But I don't think it was to do. Obviously, it was partially to do with the fact that it was naff, but it was also the fact that it was bringing back a lot of sort of emotions to him and stuff, and he was having a bit of PTSD, which obviously plays into the the whole sort of like him being, he's a human being with no superpowers who is affected by these things and stuff. Yes. So.
And need we forget, there was one other character in the Avengers who did suffer from PTSD after the events of 2012 as well. And that was Tony Stark in Iron Man 3. Yeah.
And I mean, they've got to, like, what he's been through. I mean, as he says to Yelena, like, he said, Yelena was better than me. He admits purely, he feels he should have been the one that sacrificed himself rather than, not Scarlett Johansson, Natasha.
Yeah.
And so, he's got a lot of guilt there, and he's carrying that, and you finally see that kind of play out between him and Yelena, which is a beautiful, beautiful scene between two fantastic characters. And Yelena is just going to be a brilliant Black Widow. If she, I don't know what the shape of the MC is going to be with Natasha and Yelena, but I can see Yelena taking it on, and I'll be happy with that because she is a Black Widow, but she's a very different Black Widow to what Natasha is.
Yeah.
She's got much more humour to her. And just that scene, I think in episode, is it 3? Where Kate Bishop and Yelena first meet.
When she's having the mac and cheese with the hot sauce.
Yeah, macaroni and cheese, and just having that kind of like chat together. And then the subsequent fight together, you can see they're actually getting on with each other. This has got completely different thoughts on how...
But she even says at one point to Yelena, why do I like you so much?
Brilliant. Yeah, it's just a brilliant. Those two actresses, I was up to the top of their game in that series, and it was just a delight to watch. Whenever those two were on screen, it was just going to be absolute blats watching what they come up with.
Yeah.
I will say though, if we look at just before we obviously finish on the Hawkeye stuff. It wasn't until watching that show I realised how much baggage Clint Barton actually has, because obviously not just his time as an Avenger, but you've also got to look at his time as the Ronin as well, which comes into big play in this. We obviously get a bit more background as to, some more of his time during the blip. And then we had, we see Yelena's side of the blip as well, which was, at least we now know where she was during Avengers. It wasn't just that Florence Pugh wasn't cast. It was obviously because she'd been snapped away. Nothing to do with the casting or anything like that. Joe, overall, Hawkeye, brilliant.
Yeah, really enjoyable. Though it did sort of like her sort of clicking in the toilet and then appearing again in the same toilet. It sort of always brings back that sort of thing. Like, if I was in an airplane and I was clicked away, am I going to be back in that airplane, or am I going to be in the place that I was when the airplane was?
They explained this before. They did say that when the Hulk snapped everyone back in, he's done it so everyone was safely positioned. Because could you imagine that? The thousands of people that be falling from the sky because they were in an airplane. Yeah. Jesus Christ. It would be like...
people that were in the midst of an operation. Or in hospital.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. It's just sort of like, the thing is, all it would take is for him just to not think about it properly. Yeah. And then,
Yeah, but to be fair, Bruce Banner is a scientist. Then again, it wasn't. Yeah, Bruce Banner's a scientist, so he would think of that through those logical steps.
Yeah, true. But even
I reckon going into, because we should be getting some announcements soon for the MCU shows for 2022. Going into She-Hulk, I reckon we're going to get a lot on Bruce Banner's part with the snap as well. I reckon we're going to hear quite a bit about when he brought people back and how it affected him. And Pete, you have seen Shang-Chi, haven't you?
Yes.
And Matt, you've seen Shang-Chi.
Yes, I've seen Shang-Chi, yeah.
Because we do see Bruce Banner has obviously de-hulked in the time since Avengers Endgame and Shang-Chi, but his arm is still bandaged up, though. He's still obviously suffering from the snap.
That's a permanent price of having to use the Infinity Gauntlet in such a way. That's the price, and I think he's probably always going to have that as an injury at some greater or lesser extent. Which, you kind of expect there needs to be a price for something at that scale. It can't be just like no problems. There has to be a price, and that was the price he paid.
Yeah, and I've got to say, with all the shows that we got coming this year, because we have She-Hulk, Moon Knight, which should hopefully be quite good, Ms. Marvel, we've got as well.
No, was it Marvels?
No, the Marvels is the film.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But,
I'm looking forward to Ms. Marvel. Actually, I did enjoy the original comics of that, and that someone's will be interested to see how they approach it.
Although I have heard that Ms. Marvel is getting extensive reshoots because it was due to be on at the end of last year, but then Hawkeye took that spot, I guess, and then they pushed it back. But apparently they're doing another month's worth of reshoots. So I guess it's going to tie in with the Marvels film, which
there has been a lot of jiggling about in terms of the release dates. I think that's what they're going to be, and also everything has reshoots now. So I think reading anything like that is going to be it's normal.
But I mean, look at Spiderman and Doctor Strange, because Multiverse of Madness was originally going to be before the new Spider-Man film.
Yep.
And apparently they had to do a big rewrite of both movies because of where the order changed. Yeah.
But that also goes to show how much attention Marvel are paying to the ongoing narrative within the MCU. I mean, we're up to about 20 films plus. I've lost track.
We are on 27 as of Spider-Man No Way Home.
Do you think Sony will eventually just pull the plug with them?
Well, I can't talk because Pete's here and he's obviously not seen it. I think Sony are making too much money on this at the moment. I mean, look at it this way. We're still in the pandemic. We've got apparently the strongest strain of COVID at the moment with Omicron because it's just spreading like wildfire.
More transmissible, but less severe. Just 1 point.
Well, but I will say as well, in a pandemic world, this film has just taken over in terms of dollar revenue. It's just taken over the original Avengers film.
Really?
It is over. It's $1.5 1.5 billion at the worldwide box office at the moment.
Wow.
And that is just stupidly high, not just obviously for this, everything that's going on at the moment, but it's also the highest earning film ever released by Sony. It is, obviously the highest earning film since the pandemic began. And
so they'd be stupid to sort of
exactly. I mean, Sony will still keep the cinematic rights to Spider-Man because, but then they don't license it. They essentially license it back to Marvel to use, and so basically as an income stream for them, and they just sit back and take the money.
Yeah,
it's all about the money in the end, unfortunately.
It's all about the money.
Yeah. One film I saw, moving on to MCU, is Matrix Resurrections.
All right.
Oh yes.
I enjoyed that a lot.
See, it's big thing is I've not seen it, and I didn't see it because it was getting absolutely panned by everybody, and I was like, I don't know if I want to waste my time if it's just going to be super shit.
Hang on. I said how good it was, and
you relied on the reviews.
Say it again.
You didn't listen to my review.
I know. I read it. No, to be honest, I read your review, and I did think, okay, maybe I will watch it now, but it was just like it was. I'm not a person who listens to reviews very often, but if everybody's telling me it's shit, then I'm like, yeah. And so it was only like Pete was the first one who said, yeah, it's actually pretty good. So I was just like, all right, I'll maybe give it a go.
Yeah, I've got to say, based on Pete's review, that's why I watched it, and I thought it was batshit crazy, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
and it was fun.
Yeah. It's fun, incredibly meta-referential, both naming like the previous films and the studios in it, and it was basically Leonard Wachowski giving one a really good dig. I mean, my theory is just, which I state in my review, is that Matrix Resurrections was aimed at a very specific audience, people like of our age that had seen the original Matrix in the cinema back in the 90s, and were kind of blown away by it. And just really kind of inspired by that cultural shift in the zeitgeist. And then we've since kind of settled down, let's calm down a bit, families, jobs, everything. And then, it's kind of reawakened that passion that once drove us. And that's kind of mirrored in the arc of Neo and Trinity, where they've without going into too much details, they're kind of like settled back into their own, into kind of the Matrix again, and become something else, someone kind of part of the Matrix rather than within the Matrix. And they kind of see their characters reawaken and become really powerful and glorious, but still kind of, without airbrushing their age, kind of acknowledging, they've kind of moved on. They are older now. There's no kind of, airbrushing of age. They're still looking like in their 40s, even though Keanu Reeves in his 50s. How he does that, I don't know. And it looks amazing and really kind of spoke, without being cliche, it spoke to me on a fundamental level that it's like, this is good. And it kind of reawakened, I was talking with my kid, and she was the same. She loved it. I mean, Kaylee wrote the review with me. She was kind of, put this in. And so I really should credit. Go on.
I think with Matrix Resurrections, as you say, it is very meta. There is a lot of things like that, almost like poking fun in a way.
Yeah.
And I think that was good because even in the film, it almost says like, don't. It's like saying don't do the exact same thing again because that already exists. You're looking to the next level almost. You're looking to like the next stage, and to see this, as much as I was very skeptical about a new Matrix movie, and don't get me wrong, this is someone who. Why am I talking myself in the third person? Anyway, even though I really, and I know a lot of people really hate Reloaded and Revolutions, I really enjoy them. I don't enjoy them necessarily as the whole product, but of what they are and what they build towards, they are very clever movies, and they do have a lot of great details and ideals in them. But going into Resurrections, you kind of got to go almost like, well, hang on. I know what I had from The Matrix. Forget what you had in The Matrix, though. This is something different. It knows what its past is. It knows what came before it. You know what came before it. That's fine. Take on this new level now. Take on this new, reality or whatever way you want to get. And, I just I don't know what it was, but I think my expectations for The Matrix just went out the window. And I think because it wasn't what I was expecting, I enjoyed it more. It was able to surprise me. It was able to genuinely, get me hooked on what could have been such a, cheesy, such terribly pasted together story. But, it saved itself by basically almost ripping into itself. I can't really say it any other way.
It kind of deconstructs its own narrative whilst creating a new narrative going forward. I mean, the Matrix movies the Matrix was always a film you had to think about. It's about identity and self.
Yeah.
And then the subsequent Reloaded and Revolutions kind of forgoed as much kind of philosophical discussions for action.
Mm-hmm.
And Resurrections kind of brings it back to the argument of philosophy and of identity and self. And so people can be, it's really confusing. Well, yes, because that's because you have to think. You can't just sit back. I mean, modern film cinema has made us very lazy in some respects. We kind of have to think as much as we used to. Resurrections just ignores that and goes, you have to think to follow this film. You've got multiple levels of reality to kind of and to consider and jump between. It's no longer just the Matrix and the real world. It's the Matrix, the real world, the modal, and everything in between.
And I think as well, what really sells it to me, thinking back almost like the first film, it's just what you see in the pictures as well, like the very very subtle hints of what's going on, even like to the color scheme as well, because that was one of the big things from the first Matrix movie. You could tell that if you saw red, that was what was supposed to be real. You saw blue, this was the artificial world they're creating, and just the subtle to that, obviously not trying to spoil it, but the subtle hints that you get in Resurrections as well, even like just from something simple as like someone's glasses, or you see a certain color on the wall or something like that. It's just them little telltale signs of what's real, what isn't. And I think it's like things like that. I'm almost like Easter egg hunting instead of watching the movie at times. And I did have to watch it a second time just to make sure I actually knew what was going on as well.
There's a massive amount of attention to detail, so especially in reflections. I mean, if you look carefully during certain meetings between Neo and Trinity at the start, you can see it's Keanu Reeves playing in Neo, but in the reflection you see he's a much older man. Which is how everyone else sees Neo at the moment. It was a really kind of neat. You got to pay a lot of attention, and I mean also when they start out, Neo and Trinity are wearing kind of very plain clothes that blends in. But then as they go on, their kind of wardrobe changes. And like by the end of it, they kind of really stand out. Just the clothing they wear is like, well, before like the Matrix was very much inspired by 90s goth culture. With the black PVC and the sunglasses and the corsetry and all that. This is kind of very much inspired by a similar kind of modern alternative culture. And again, it's just beautiful. Really, and also again, the action sequences are just brilliant. I mean, it kind of at the end of it, it's kind of it really feels like in the middle of a zombie film because all the bots, which again, that makes perfect sense because when you consider that when we kind of got botnets, which essentially like zombie hordes of IP connected devices that are used for DDoS attacks. Well, why wouldn't the server use its own version of botnets to attack its own entities? Brilliant, yeah, it really, and it looks fantastic. Really, the action just looks fantastic. Yeah.
Okay, well, so there's two other things of there's been a lot of TV that we shout out. So we've basically got Witcher and the Book of Boba Fett. Obviously, The Witcher has dropped and everything, all the episodes. So. Start there. Views on The Witcher, the series 2.
Seen a couple so far.
Oh, have you not seen?
I'm about midway through. I'm enjoying it more than the first season, mostly because they dropped the time jumping element.
Yeah.
It worked. I mean, I was saying this earlier. It seemed that the writers of The Witcher were taking nods from Westworld, which uses similar time jumping elements for its two plot strands. Yeah. But whilst when you look back on it, you could see the two different time jumps, the two different narratives. With The Witcher, you didn't have that because you've got characters that are essentially ageless and look the same no matter what time zone they're in. So I find that really confusing. Now the writers then just dropped that idea completely, and it's just a single narrative going through, and it's much more interesting. And each story within each episode is a self-contained story.
There is a bit in it, and it's not a spoiler. It's just it's a little sort of kind of bit of fan service. He's talking to a guy at a dock, and he's talking about one of the songs, and it's like, and I found the time jumps really confusing and stuff. About he's talking about the different parts of the song, which is obviously a reference to the last series and stuff. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, and to be honest, and I think the writers accepted that. Yeah, we've got characters here that are ageless and will look the same no matter what time narrative they're in. So this kind of dropped it all together, and it looks great. But I'm enjoying it. I would say keep watching it. There's other shows out there I'm watching which I prefer.
Yeah, it's The Witcher. Yeah, The Witcher second series. I've watched it all again. I binged that when I was back at for Christmas. I enjoyed it. Can't say it was. It sort of blew my tiny little mind or anything. It was enjoyable. I'm a big Henry Cavill fan anyway. My boss used to say it's so boring. It's so boring, and I would say it was boring, but I don't think it's as sort of. I don't know. It's not. It doesn't feel like it's as action packed as maybe the first series and stuff. I watched it, finished it, and went, yeah, it was good. But it didn't sort of really do lots for me and stuff.
I think with Witcher, I think they're sort of playing a long game with it, because even the writers have said that they've got a 7-season arc planned out for it.
That's assuming the studios let them have a 7-season arc.
I thought he was going to say, assuming that Netflix don't go bankrupt by then.
Yeah.
Well, they're not going to now because they've got that Squid Game money. They're good. They're fine. But yeah, no, Witcher, obviously from reading the Witcher books as well, because I was more into the books than, sadly, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the video games, but the Witcher books are fantastic works of art. I really do. The later ones are a bit, but anyway. But yeah.
I found the Witcher books were basically meandering. They felt more like a series of short stories with like a single plot thread going through it. Whilst the short stories were brilliant because there was like beginning, middle, and end. But the kind of these big novels, I'm not going to try Sapkowski, I think.
That's how I pronounce it.
I'm going to stick with that, and I apologise if I got it wrong. I struggle with long surnames. But I found like his full-length novels were really good ideas, but just they didn't work structurally.
Do you think it's a cultural thing though? Because obviously he's Polish, and it's a Polish author and stuff. Do you reckon it's a cultural thing?
I think in terms of the themes and the storylines, it's a cultural thing. But that wasn't the problem I have. I mean, if you look at the Witcher video games, they're very similar thematically and culturally to the books. I think it's more a structural sense of the actual novel that it just didn't engage with me. It's the best way I can put it. I mean, if you look at like Slavic mythology is less about us versus them. It's not really kind of like enemies versus goodies. It's more about people trapped between two opposing ideologies and how they kind of find their way to navigate that. I mean, that's why Slavic mythology is so rich. It's so rich because a lot of their creatures are tied to this place. I mean, if you look at the most of the monsters within the Witcher franchise, they are always kind of tied to a very specific point or to a very specific event that kind of creates them, which is very different to typical folklore.
Yeah.
Like if you look at our fairy tales, they're kind of like more driven by a bad person doing something to a good person. This is more Slavic, is more complicated, as best I can put it.
But
yeah, I guess complicated is the best way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what
Yeah,
episodes? How many episodes have you watched?
I'm about midway.
I've seen 2 so far.
Yeah, I'm about midway through, about 3 or 4.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. Like I said, the bit where he's talking about the song, and it's basically them discussing the last season, but in reference to one of oh fuck, what's the name of the bards? What's the name of the bard?
Jessica.
Jessica.
Yeah, Jessica. Yeah, in reference to one of his songs and stuff like that. So they're basically discussing the song, but it's effectively the series, the last series, and I thought that was quite a good sort of little touch to it. All right then. So Book of Boba Fett. I've just finished episode 2.
It's not as good as
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's not as good as Mandalorian.
I think with Mandalorian, that was when that came out, that was very unexpected to what you were getting, because we've got a show that really has it took Star Wars to somewhere very different, and it really opened up that idea of having a Western kind of feel to the Star Wars franchise. There was elements from a couple of the movies, and if you read some of the books as well, there are some of the novels that do kind of toy with that theme. But having Mandalorian, when you actually can have you can almost have like a proper showdown between a couple of characters. You're having like these standoffs. The only other way I could compare it, it felt almost like Breaking Bad in the Star Wars universe, because it feels grounded. You feel you're like believing in these characters, but at the same time you're like, oh my god, this is Star Wars, doing this. But I think Book of Boba Fett, it's going on that momentum, but at the same time, it's also trying to play with people's expectations of a character that's been established for almost as long as the franchise itself. We've got to try and work this into the continuity, which is, going from Mandalorian. It's between episode 6 and episode 7. So we're building up that story, but also we're learning about Boba Fett. We're learning about what happened to him from when he got thrown into the Sarlacc. Yeah. And then when he becomes, the Boba Fett that we see now. And
have you ever seen
intrigued.
Have you seen have you ever watched Parks and Recreation?
No,
yes.
I haven't.
Right, there's an episode of Parks and Rec where Patton Oswalt's character is filibustering and is trying to basically, what filibustering is, where you have to basically keep on talking to sort of stop stop a vote from happening. And he's basically talking about how he wants Boba Fett to come back, and word for word what he says happens in the there's a video of it, like him talking. And the opening scene where obviously Boba Fett sort of kind of comes out of the Sarlacc pit and stuff, and it's word for word exactly what happens and stuff. It was quite good.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it, but I'm not enjoying as much as the Mandalorian.
They are quite similar in certain ways. I think
the main difference is the Book of Boba Fett is far more brutal, unremittingly brutal than with Mandalorian. You have got Grogu to counter the violence, and you need that to counter the banter too. With Book of Boba Fett, you don't have that kind of counter.
See, I wouldn't say it as brutal. What's sort of getting me, like, I'm enjoying it, but what's getting me so far, and again, it's only 2 episodes in, so we don't know what's going to happen and stuff, but
very true.
What's sort of getting me currently is, as much as I understand Boba Fett's always being the sort of very stoic character who Alistair says give it a chance. I'm giving it a chance. I'm enjoying it.
Give it a chance. We are enjoying it.
It's just what is sort of currently getting to me slightly is that Boba Fett, yes, he's stoic and he's very reserved, and I quite like the way, and I can't remember the name of the actor he's playing.
Tamara Morrison.
Yeah. The way he sort of the way he talks, it is very sort of kind of thought out, and he doesn't just talk for the talking's sake. He's very much a case of this is how it is and stuff. But Boba Fett is I'm not an amoral, but he's he's a character who should have a grey morality in my mind, and this sort of currently, you know, I will rule by respect and stuff like this, and it's like, it would he though, and it's just like, you know, he's very happy to sort of kind of, you know, I think
because if you look at Boba Fett from the films and you look at like history, he's always been the character that sort of done almost what he could do to earn money and please a master almost. Like, you know, he was always this kind of person that would go, right, well, if the price is right, I'll do anything. And a lot of that did involve obviously killing. And to see him sort of become this guy that goes, well, look, actually, I'm going to do something different. I want to make a name for myself, but I don't just want to be like, you know, this random murderer. I don't want to be just this guy that's doing everything for money. I want to have some respect. I want to show that, like, you know, I think it's more like for his family name as well. He wants to show that the Fett family are more than just assassins for hire, more than just this template of what became, you know, the clone troopers and all this side of it.
I just hope they give him a bit more depth. Like, I don't mind, you know, because they sort of mention that, you know, being in, the, you know, I can't remember the line, but he basically says, you know, it's at the start of the series and stuff, but he basically implies that, you know, he sort of had a bit of a change in his views and things and stuff. You know, if you're going to die, maybe you take into effect, you know, how your life is being. So I understand that maybe he's trying to be, you know, he's had a near-death experience effectively, and he's trying his best to sort of try to not let me be better, but he've obviously realized that what he was doing before hasn't got him in the belly of a sarlacc. But that being said, I don't think if you've been that far and you've got to that point, you're not going to, it's like a leopard doesn't change its spots. And I think, you know, I kind of hope he keeps this sort of grayish moral sort of compass as well. And I think I really want him to not like the Jedi, because obviously they killed his father, you know.
I don't think he's going to like the Jedi. I don't think that's going to be in question at all. I think he'll be the kind of guy that if he did come across a Jedi, he would still fight them. But I think he wants to be known as a guy who's more of respect. I think that's going to be his arc. And I think one thing, you know, going back to what Pete said, you know, that obviously it does seem to be missing that balance to a degree. And I think what we need to see a bit more of, we need to see a bit more of heart, I think, in the show. Because if you look at Mandalorian, you know, Grogu was the heart, basically. This was the character that, you know, for all the moments that he had all these like battles, all these fights, everything, all this bad stuff going on, Grogu was always the light to it all. He was like, this was the side that you go, oh, you know, it's not all bad. You know, there are certain things that are hopeful in this universe. And I think Boba Fett just needs to kind of find that in its show.
I don't know if it does though. I
think it needs a bit.
I don't think so.
You need the contrast. You need the contrast to emphasize the two elements.
No, because you look at like sort of my favorite Star Wars film of all time, Rogue One. It's pretty dark and it's pretty sort of. It's pretty sort of.
It is dark, but you have got those moments of light.
I know, but it's not based around a. It's a moment. There is a moment of light, but it sort of kind of goes back to, you know, everybody dies, basically, pretty much.
Yeah, but it's there. It's there.
It's a sacrifice.
I understand that. I just don't want them to be this sort of. I don't want it to be a Mandalorian clone.
No, we're not saying it
have to be.
Yeah, I just want him to be a bit. I want there to be a bit more depth about his character. I like the like. You know, Fisk, like Kingpin, you know, he's very reserved and he's kind of likable in a certain way. And then it's just like he clicks and he goes. And I would like something similar with Boba Fett, because I get that impression that's his character, that he is very much a sort of like calculating, reserved, stoic sort of person, but he would go. And I kind of want that, you know.
I'm really enjoying their friendship between Boba Fett and Fennec Shand, Ming-Na Wen. She's brilliant in that role. And if they kind of develop that more, you could really have that kind of explore that friendship. You could have that kind of the contrast necessary to kind of to contrast with the violence of the show, that would work.
Do you not think her character gets slightly stereotyped? Because she plays a similar role in most things, doesn't she?
Not in Stargate Universe. She's quite different in Stargate Universe.
Is she? All right, no.
Yeah.
I reckon this is going to be the same thing with Boba Fett. I reckon through the series, her character will evolve. I reckon that we're going to see Fennec Shand. We need to see something that sort of like emotionally pulls her. I think something that really, something that she properly believes in. I mean, at the moment, she's working with Boba Fett because it's a life debt basically.
Yeah.
He saved her, so she's like binded to him that way. But I think we need to see something that's a bit more personal to her, and I think we will get that. Whether we get it, during this arc that we're currently at the moment, or in a potential second series, because let's be honest, Star Wars is basically done for movies, at least for the time being. It's going to be the TV shows that are going to go forward. Yeah. I think we need to see Fennec Shand as far as she can go. I reckon there'll be a big arc that will come up for her. What that'll be, I don't know. I'm not Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni. I don't know what these guys come up with. Them two are absolute geniuses when it comes to Star Wars. I'm happy to leave it to them, and I can just be the happy viewer. But whatever they come up with, I'm looking forward to it. But I even said before, I reckon this will be the show that kind of, because compared to Mandalorian goes all over the galaxy. Book of Boba Fett is staying in Tatooine. It's not going anywhere else as far as I can see. But I reckon this will be sort of like the central hub for other shows. So I reckon we got to get a cameo from one or two from Mandalorian. I think that's going to happen.
Kenobi's going to appear, I reckon.
That'd be cool.
Because they've got Obi-Wan Kenobi series is coming out soon. So.
Yes, there is later this year.
Yeah, but very quickly, if we do have Obi-Wan Kenobi in Book of Boba Fett, that would be obviously, Force Ghost Obi-Wan Kenobi, because, at this point...
it would be, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it would be.
Yes.
Oh, shit, yeah, because it's after. Yeah, of course it would be. Yeah. So maybe it wouldn't be. I'm thinking, it's not, because it's in between the two trilogies. All right, so it can't. You wouldn't have Obi-Wan Kenobi, yeah, right.
Although I reckon, saying that, I reckon at the end of the series, instead of a post-credit scene, you'll probably get a trailer for the Obi-Wan series.
Oh yeah.
So there you go. You might win on that side.
Yeah. Mr. Wilson says, "Nice to see a different perspective of the Tusken Raiders." Yeah, I was actually thinking that and stuff. That obviously very sort of Native American sort of thing. Whereas the cowboy films is always they're the bad guys, and now it's just it's a bit more grey than
the
that.
Tusken Raiders were very well portrayed in Mandalorian. Brilliantly well done that. The first episode of Book of Boba Fett, they kind of went back. They kind of regressed a bit narratively.
I think you had to do that.
Did you?
I think you had to have that bit where I think because with
basically
they're bringing in a stranger. They've got someone who's their prisoner, and obviously they have to show fear to their prisoner. They have to show intimidation.
By enslaving them and then having their children beat up their slave.
I mean, I can't.
What is that
I know, but that's not. I don't think that. You've got cultural sort of. It's sort of like a warrior caste, effectively, and it sort of goes along the line of a lot of sort of Native American sort of tribes, especially in film, where it's like you earn respect through strength, effectively, and I think that's sort of where it's coming from.
Yeah, but I still think it's kind of a bit of a small backward step from how it's been presented in Mandalorian. And then with episode 2, they kind of brought it forward again to something a bit more positive. I will say this, though, I'm preferring the kind of Boba Fett exploring the kind of politics of Tatooine's criminal underworld far more than the Tusken storyline. I'm finding it's much more interesting of his character, how he navigates this. Where before he was the servant, now he is the master.
Yeah,
and he's kind of
you could have so done a good Star Wars line there.
Yeah. I was a learner. Now I am the master.
but now he's in his role has turned, and now kind of look into that element. I mean, I really enjoyed Boba Fett's interaction with the daimyo.
Yeah.
That really kind of...
Oh, no, not the daimyo. He's the daimyo. The mayor.
No,
Yeah.
the mayor's damn you.
No, he's the
no.
damn you.
Yeah, so
The mayor's the mayor, and then the Hutt twins
The
are
Hutt's the Huts.
the Huts.
no,
Yeah.
but there was
Wookiee's the Wookiee.
Yeah.
the Twi'lek.
Oh, the Twi'lek. Do you know who that Twi'lek is? The guy who's sort of his. Have you ever? Do you watch? I can't even remember the name of it now. I've watched series 4 of it. It's the one where they're in a supermarket and it's a comedy and they're in a supermarket. It's sort of along the lines of The Office.
Clerks?
Say it again.
Clerks?
No, Superstore.
Superstore, that's it, yeah.
No.
He's Jeff from Superstore. I was like, that guy looks so familiar.
That's who it was.
Yeah, it's
That's
Jeff.
Do you know what? Because I've just finished watching Superstore as well. Actually,
Yeah,
I've just finished watching the last series. And Joe, when I was watching Boba Fett, I was like, I'm sure, because done that a few times when you watch something, you go, I'm sure I know that face.
Yeah,
it's like when I used to watch Highlander. I used to watch the Highlander series every week. You're like, I know who that person is. And then if you don't come by the end of the episode, they're like, right, I've got to Google it. I've got to find out who it was now.
Yeah, Superstore. Yeah, Jeff. It's Jeff from Superstore. So I'm on series 4 at the minute. It's like,
that's it.
Yeah. Alistair Wilson says, has the Fett changed the way Tusken Raiders behave? They now collaborate in Mando season 2, which is true. The whole sort of like tithe thing that he mentioned in the second episode is something that they now sort of take in, and maybe because of him, they've become a bit more open to, they're not
Outsiders.
they're not. They're a bit more. They can be a bit more integrated in a way, which is yeah.
I could see that. That makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I just hope they give him a bit more depth. I don't want a carbon copy of the Mandalorian. I don't want a bounty hunter who gets a heart and then sort of, saves the galaxy sort of thing. I want a bounty hunter who is, fine. He might be a bit less sort of like shooty stabby and a bit more sort of kind of like, they're playing into it because he is sort of like, this is mine, I'm taking this.
I need. Also, the Mandalorian himself is a very different character to Boba. Mandalorian is like very much a beginner. He's just starting out in his career as a bounty hunter. Yeah. Currently, he's still getting all his armor, whilst Boba Fett is at the opposite end of this. He's no longer a bounty hunter. He is now a daimyo. Yeah. And so this is someone like who's becoming about it compared to someone who's leaving the bounty hunter career behind him. So that's going to be the major difference, which is going to be interesting to watch.
Another back to the Twi'leks. The female Twi'lek, is that again name forget from Battlestar Galactica? Is that her?
Oh,
the Cylon, the Cylon.
Oh, no, Helfer. I don't think so.
No. I didn't think it was.
No.
Is it not? She looks familiar. The female Twi'lek in the Sanctuary. She's been in something, and I'm just like trying. And part of me was just like, is that she was in obviously. She was in Lucifer, and she was obviously Battlestar Galactica and stuff. And I was just like, is that her? Is that her? But if it's not, it's somebody who looks very similar to her. And I'm just trying to figure out who it is. So if somebody knows who that person, I suppose I could just IMDb it. In fact, I'm going to do that now. I'm going to IMDb it because I'll find out.
Jennifer Beals.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, then we'll get an answer then, won't we? It's like, Book of why?
It's Jennifer Beal.
Is it Jennifer Beal?
Yep.
There you go.
All right, okay. Right, okay. What was I watching with Jennifer Beal in it recently? What if I was watching something with Mira Jennifer Beal in it recently? What? Or am I thinking?
Well, we can just keep naming films all night.
Maybe I'm thinking of Jessica Biel. I'm not thinking of Jennifer Beal. I don't know.
That's someone completely different.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Is it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. She just.
You looked out my Google thing.
Is it Jennifer Beal or Jessica Biel? It's a new game coming to the Geek Pride podcast.
Yeah.
Oh the hell.
It's so far so good. I'm not. I just hope he sort of gets himself a bit of a his own thing, and we'll see how it goes and stuff. But yeah, in Jon Favreau, we trust, I guess.
Yeah, very much so.
yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Just talking about TV shows, because I'm sure, it's getting to that time, probably wanting to get a bit of hot chocolate, lay down in bed and think about the week that's about to come. But as of a few hours ago, I finally finished watching. We're going to go from sci-fi to something quite messed up. I finally watched the last episode of the revival series of Dexter.
Okay.
And you know what? I love Dexter. I really enjoyed the show. The later series went really downhill. Yes, they did. But Jeff Lindsay's books, if you've never read the novels, I think you should read them first before you ever watch the show, because the books are just so good. They're so rich, dark, humorous, and what you get from them is like literally just the tip of the iceberg, to compare to what you get in the show. The shows are very okay. But the new series, it had a lot to do. For one thing, you had to improve on that fucking terrible finale that was season 8 when he goes off and becomes a lumberjack. Because, that's what you do. You grow a bit of a beard, you go on the run, you're going to go, I'm going to just go and cut wood now for the rest of my life. I'll try not to murder anyone. Yeah, why not? But do you know what? The new series, I really did like it. And when you've got Clancy Brown as well as your main antagonist, you know that you've got some good acting chops there. Someone who's just able to bounce off of Michael C. Hall perfectly. They do a few creative changes. One of the big things is the Dark Passenger is no longer depicted as his dad. It's actually depicted as Deb Morgan instead. So his sister / lover / whatever weird shit you're into, that was the and even though them two did actually get married at one point as well, really made it even weirder. But yes, but do you know what? Overall, the series was really good. There was a lot of twists and turns. There was some terrible storyline threads that they had to try and wrap up as well. But one of the best things they did was bring in Dexter back to his son Harrison, because there was obviously a lot of trauma there, because he just left his son and then went off to go and do his lumberjack job, as you do. But the final episode just dropped today, because they obviously had it on the streaming services. And yeah,
I stopped watching Dexter after season 3, possibly. I loved it. I thought it was amazing. But I think
was it season 3 or was it season 4? Did you watch it after Julie Benz's character died?
No. I got to the point where I think it doesn't matter. It's fine. But I think I got to the point where the copper, was pretty much on to him and stuff.
That's season 2.
Season 2? Maybe at the end of season 2.
Yeah,
and it wasn't because I disliked it. I loved it. It was just I couldn't. I don't think at the time when I was watching it I could see it. I was like I think my exes. I was watching it. They were sending me copies of it from Sky and stuff, and I was watching it and stuff. And then
yeah, no, that was Agent Dokes, because he obviously found out Dexter's secret.
Yeah.
And
surprise,
then he
motherfucker.
he kept him prisoner. He was like, well, you can't kill me because I don't violate your code. So you're going to have to let me go at some point. And then, problem solved. His crazy bitch of a girlfriend just kills him instead. But again, this is one of the things when you compare it to the books, because in the books, the Agent Dokes character has a very different storyline. And what happens to his character is fucked up to the extreme. It is really messed up. He doesn't die, but what happens to him is quite messed up. You've got to read the books.
Just a bit of a retraction. It's not Jeff from the Superstore part. It's a guy called David Pasquesi, who was in Veep at Home with Amy Cedrus, Angels and Demons. But so yeah, it's a guy who looks like Jeff, but it's not Jeff. So
I thought it was him.
Yeah, I was sitting there going, that's definitely Jeff. That's definitely him, but it's not. It's another guy. It's an actor called David Pasquesi. But But yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So there you go. All right. So before we sort of we bounce, before we leave, what have you got yourselves any sort of kind of New Year's resolutions?
Get myself back into shape. Basically, get back to Kung Fu. That's starting on Tuesday. Get back on my bike now that the weather's slightly more pleasant for cycling in. And also get out to more events. I mean, we've got Sci-Fi Weekend coming up in April, World's Comic Con with Bruce Campbell.
Oh,
So
yes.
fingers crossed I can get an interview with Bruce Campbell.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
That would be fantastic. Yeah, hopefully Edge Lit at Quad, organised by Alex Davis. It's going to be in July, maybe, possibly, hopefully. And hopefully let's get COVID under control. I mean, I believe like this time next year, things will be quite different. Things will be much more back to normal because the various variants have becoming more transmissible, but also less severe.
Yep.
Our bodies, we've got like 2 to 3 vaccines yet, so we've got some protection. It's going to become like the flu, where you get your flu jab, you also get your COVID jab as well.
Yeah, it's never going away, I don't think.
Absolutely not. No, those that say otherwise is going to be ridiculous. It's going to become like having your annual flu jab. And it's also less severe now. The number of people that have been hospitalized, because it's far less compared to the number of people getting it. So, and you just feel rough for a few days. Typically, there are, now caveat that, there are a lot of people out there that are vulnerable, that, for whatever reason, such as age or have an autoimmune deficiency syndrome or have some form of they are have got breathing difficulties that will impact upon them much more. That's why we get vaccinated, so they don't catch it.
What about you, Jojo?
No, do you know what? I think it's almost the same thing, getting out there a bit more, try and get into a bit of better shape as well, because, as much as I like my weekend of, sitting down, drinking beer, eating pizza, I mean, it's like living the dream, really. But at the same time, you've got to get that little bit active again. Yeah. Also, as well, I have decided that last year I wanted to try and do a new film every week, because there's so many times I'll sit down and I'll go, I'll put this on. I know I've seen it before, but it's easy going, whatever. So this year I've decided that I'm going to watch at least one film a week that I've never seen before. And I'm even going on personal recommendations as well. I've just said to people that tell me some films that you've really enjoyed. I want to have some new experiences. And I've decided that's going to be every weekend now. So I've done that twice so far.
Big Trouble in Little China.
I've seen that.
Okay then. Good. Well done. Keep it up.
Come on,
John, maybe we should do a thing where we give you a recommendation for a film you haven't seen to watch.
And how cool are we feeling
for the next podcast? And what did you think of it?
Well, do you know what? The first film on my list was Best Friends, the part one, the Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero, and I've got part 2, which I'm going to watch next week. But part 1, I'll tell you what, it's fucked up. It's so weird. If you've not seen it, basically, Tommy Wiseau is an undertaker, and his main thing that he does is he collects personal knickknacks from the people that, he caters to. So if someone had gold fillings or whatever, he collects the gold fillings, puts them in a box. If there was something that they had that seemed of sentimental value, he put it into storage. And there's even, just to show you that obviously so culturally sensitive, because the funeral of one person they do is Chinese, they decide that, yes, for dinner that night, they're going to get Chinese food in his memory.
Okay.
Because Tommy Wiseau is a fucked up guy. And I'm pretty sure that most of what you see on the screen is not acting.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, I finally watched, because I don't know why I never really got round to it before. I finally watched the Babysitter film on Netflix, and the McG directed movie, and I got to tell you, I quite enjoyed that.
Have you seen Don't Look Up yet?
Yes, I have. Yes, I watched that.
Say
I
it
actually
again?
quite enjoyed that.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I think it was so on the nose about.
Yeah.
It was so on the nose, like it was kind of scary on the nose. It's comical and serious and scary because it's so.
Because it's how people act
Yeah.
about this potential world-ending event, and they're like, "Well, what's the possibility the world's going to end? 99.8%. Oh, so it's not 100%. Then that's not too bad. How about we spin it and we say it's only like 70%? It goes, but that's not the numbers. That's wrong.
But it was.
So how about we say 50-50?
Yeah, it was insane though. It just sort of like I was watching it and just go, "Oh my god, this is potentially one of the most sort of." I think so, somebody said on my Facebook. I think Ryan, the guy Uncle Ryan said, it's like this is probably one of the most important films to come out, on in our generation and stuff. It's so like.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain. It's ridiculous, but it's so like ties in with what we are in at this moment in time and stuff. And if you haven't seen it, you should see it.
Yeah. I think it makes you think. As horrible as it'd be to be told, "Oh, the world's going to end in a few days." Watching that film, you just see that like people will be like, "Yeah, whatever, you crazy scientist guy." That's what I feel would happen. That's what I honestly think people would do. And even like the scene when they're on the chat show as well, that is just incredible. Like, just to the point where like Jennifer Lawrence's character just snaps and goes, "What's wrong with you, Mara? We're all gonna fucking die." It's like,
it's just mad. It's sort of it's definitely worth a watch.
And Death to 2021 as well.
Oh yeah, that was good. Yeah, as always.
Not as good as the Death to 2020 because I think that was a bit of an unexpected treat, but still enjoyable. And it does show you that there is still humour in the bad things, and especially Kristen Miliotti's character when you see like when she goes, the protests. Oh, I didn't really agree with it. Where it goes, but you were at the protests. You filmed yourself there. Well, yeah, I had to go and visit.
Yeah, it's there with an AK-47 and stuff.
Yeah. And then, yes, you also caught COVID as well. Yeah, it ain't done anything to me. Yeah, sure, I was breathing bad for a few weeks and I still can't taste anything, but apart from that, I'm
fine. Alistair says, Ghostbusters Afterlife is definitely worth a watch. I've not seen it yet. I don't know why, but I've not seen it. I really want to see it and stuff.
Yeah. It is good.
He says it's not a film, but Dope. Is it Dope Sick? Yeah, I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah, I've heard good things about that.
Yeah.
And also, I'm currently on to just waiting for the final episode of the Expanse to drop on Wednesday.
I am so glad
Friday.
that I haven't watched any of it, so I can just literally binge the whole thing.
Oh, you will love it. It's great. I mean, my only criticism is that 6 episodes isn't enough. It needs more to breathe. I mean, there's kind of like various characters being dropped in, say what they need and drop out again. So it's very tight and very tightly written, but it's great. It's great. It's Expanse. Expanse.
As for sort of my New Year's resolutions, I've got a few. My first one I enacted today as I went to the Northwest Warboot in Element Games in Stockport, and I sold over £1,000 worth of stuff. I literally I had like more. Like I had a car full of stuff. Like it's still there, but I'm going to try and declutter. No, I'm not going to say like. People, will know my man cave, and some will maybe say I've got like a lot of collectibles. I've got a lot of board games, a lot of miniatures and things like that. But it's stressing me out. Not the collectibles as much and stuff because they can sit there and look pretty, but the stuff where I've like my pile of shame things that I can't sort of,
Yeah.
you know, feel stressed because I'm not doing stuff with them and they're just piling up. So I just went, right, that's it. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing Kickstarters anymore unless I'm going to play the game. I'm just going to get carried away. So I'm not backing anything unless I really, 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 really want it. I'm selling stuff that I'm not going to use. I'm going to sort of like I said, I sold about £1,000 worth of stuff. Even so, like I had an Imperial Guard army, which is beautiful, and it sat there. I played with some of the stuff in a tournament a few years back, and I went, it's just, you know, it looks nice, but I'm never going to use this again. So I sold it. I had a toy army. I sold that. I sold a load of stuff today. I just went, right, fuck it. I went proper brutal on myself, and I'm literally going to go through as much of my stuff that I can get rid of that won't destroy my soul, and get rid of it. And so I'm just sort of like, you know, board games, if I'm not playing them, I'm going to try and get rid of them and stuff. So that's my first sort of thing. My second thing is try to be a bit more organized, especially with this podcast and, you know, general Geek Pride stuff, because it's a bit sort of sometimes my life gets in the way and it's a bit sort of hit and hope and just see what happens and stuff. But I wouldn't mind. What we got with this sort of podcast is last year our numbers were getting really, like, especially in the mid-year before, we were getting lots of guests on, and our numbers were like every week we were going up, and then obviously I moved house, shit happened with my ex and stuff, and it just all went straight down again. Speaking
of guests, we've got Sarah Al-Arabi coming on to the podcast in about a fortnight. Fantastic debut author, really powerful, passionate speaker about science fiction and people of color, and like, you know, really looking forward to speaking to her. I'm currently speaking to Doctor and the Medics coming on. They've played the Sci-Fi Weekend, a few conventions to come time, and they are keen. Laura Morrow is going to come on sometime in February. She's really got a lot of work on at the moment, but said February should be a bit calmer for her. She's doing a PhD, and she started writing in video games now. So she's going to come and talk about, like, how that came about, and, you know, how writing video games differs to typical, you know, narrative techniques.
I've got to say, when you first mentioned about Doctor and the Medics the other week, I was like, the band Doctor and the Medics, and I just thought that would be so awesome. That just
he's a genuinely lovely guy. So he's been at Sci-Fi Weekend, a couple of guys, and he gets everyone up on the dance floor dancing. And I've seen them myself a couple of times. Last time was in January 2020 when they came to Derby, and they played us a great set. The sound quality was off a bit, but just the band were just having an absolute ball, and the Doc himself was just such a charismatic vocalist and lead singer that he really kind of had the entire audience in his hand. So I'm looking forward to having him on. Yeah,
and I think, you know, as much as I quite like having us just having a bit of, especially if we haven't talked for a while, just having a bit of sort of back and forth and stuff. I think the guests are definitely a thing that need to be done, and you know, we were doing really well, and it was I was like, oh my god, this is actually we're getting a lot of traction here, and it was getting to a point, and then obviously it just fell off a cliff, and we have to stop. We're rising again, but it's just like, you know, I was looking at the what's the background, the stats and stuff in the background, and I was like, oh my god, it's like, you know, week on week we're literally going up, and like month on month we were like, you know, we were smashing what we were getting the month before, and then, you know, I was like, so we need to get back to there, because I wouldn't mind.
Also we've got Adrian Tchaikovsky due to come on after the release of his new novel, specifically Games Workshop novel about gene stealers. So he's a man that knows about his bugs.
Yep, cool. That'll be good. So yeah, that's another thing. Thirdly, I think I'm going to probably get my teeth sorted. I'm not, like, people may or may not notice, but I've got a tooth that sort of kind of pushes in slightly, and one that goes to the side. It's not overly what's the word? It's not like, it's not horrible looking or anything like that. It's just I'm very, very conscious about it, especially when I smile, that, you know, this tooth sort of is pushed in slightly. So I think I'm going to get it sorted, because it's been bugging me, you know, since I was a teenager, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to maybe get it sorted, and then it's done. and then I can sort of, smile and not be so overly self-conscious about it and stuff. I know it doesn't matter. People don't matter, but for me personally, it matters.
Matt, the last few months, all we ever see is we see these photos of you where you basically like sculpted yourself, almost like going for this demigod kind of look, and now you're like, I'm perfect, but I just need to do the teeth. It's like,
no, it's not. I'm trying my best as well with the gym stuff. Like I got myself to like 95 kilograms, which is about 15 stone, I think, 15 and a bit stone, something like that, which is good for me. I think for my size, I should be in and around that weight and stuff. And I'd sort of, was happy enough. And I don't hammer the gym. I'm not like, I've got like effectively a home gym. My work gives me like £350 a year towards gym equipment that I can spend, which is good. So I'm going to buy some more of that. I do like half an hour to 45 minutes a day in the gym. I have a protein shake. And obviously I walk balls and stuff, so I've got sort of a good thing.
Just lift balls up and down. That's really just fine.
But yeah, it's
but the thing is, boss can just pull him along,
Yeah, I want to lose a bit more weight to get myself back to what it was, and get sort of the teeth is something. I'm 40 now. And I don't, I've got a girlfriend now. Everything's happy, and it doesn't really matter. She's not bothered, but it's just something that is always bothered me.
I've just got £1,000 going spare at the moment, so
yeah, what's it? Yeah, I have. So,
yes, £1,000 might buy you one tooth.
Yeah, well, they're expensive though. That's the problem. So it's something I need, but it's just I just want to get it done because it's just like it's always something that's bothered me, and I just think it make me feel slightly better. It's all about sort of your own mental health and things. I know there's a lot of people who sort of are pretty down on sort of cosmetic surgery in general, and I understand if you go over the top with it and stuff, it looks weird, but I think if it makes you as a person feel sort of better about yourself, then I don't see why you shouldn't do it and stuff. I know it doesn't matter, people shouldn't judge you by that and stuff, but if you personally feel sort of like it affects you and your mental well-being and stuff, then why get it done? So that's something. Obviously it's down to money, and I don't, maybe if I sell a load of stuff, then I'll have a bit more money to do that and stuff, but yeah.
That man cave's going to look quite bare by the end of the year.
Well, it's definitely not going to look bare. As much as I'm culling stuff, unless something really bad happened, I don't think I ever get rid of my Lord of the Rings collection. There's certain board games I would definitely never get rid of. Some of the things like the Star Wars stuff I've got in the background, I don't play it very much, but I love the models and stuff. And it's just I'm not going to get rid of that. It's just like grey plastic and games that I'm 100% never going to play. That's sort of stuff I'm getting rid of. I'm not. It's like I buy them, I got shiny things, I like them. It's like no, get rid of it. You don't need that. And Kickstarters. I am not backing any Kickstarters unless I really. The only one I've got my eye on at the minute is the Rome Total War Kickstarter, because I love that game.
Will you be going to UK Games Expo this year?
See, this is the other thing, Peter. If I go to that, then I'm going to have to be I might have to give you my wallet. What we're going to do, we're going to go. We're going to interview some people.
If he goes to the Games Expo, he can't do his teeth. So, that's the conundrum.
He gives me his wallet and I can go shopping.
Yeah, it's like, don't you let me buy
So you're going to put him in debt?
I'm not going to buy this, I'm not going to buy that, and I'm not going to buy stupid things unless I really, 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 really need it. I'm just going to be a bit more brutal with myself and just sort of, try and get that stuff sorted and shit. But yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah, I've really enjoyed tonight. That's been really good.
Likewise.
Great conversation. Alistair said Dope Sick is a Disney Plus, and it's based on
that's the Michael Keaton one.
The Purdue farmer scandal. Okay, right, all right. I also agree with Pete on The Expanse. The Expanse needed so much more than 6 episodes. Yeah. Maybe some follow-up movies.
I think that's what's going to happen, to be honest. I think that's the only way they could. I mean, there's no way they could resolve 3 and a bit books in 1.5 hour episode. It's going to be like the last of book 6, and then I would not be surprised if down the line we hear about a trilogy of films coming out, which makes sense because there's a jump forward in the Expanse books between book 6 and book 7.
Right.
Or a
Okay.
sequel series, maybe.
The assets are being put on into storage, not being so that could be the case. We'll see what happens. I mean, I would be happy either. Personally, prefer TV series because there's more. You can invest more time into the story rather than being, tight, limited by the time scale of a film, which is like 2 hours ish. But yeah, more expansive. I'm always happy.
Cool. All right. Well, with that, we'll leave it there. Appreciate all the comments from Mr. Wilson on Facebook there. And anybody who's been listening, thank you very much. Happy New Year. Have yourselves, I hope you have yourselves an amazing year. Please keep on listening. Hopefully this year we will start gearing up again, get a bit more variety guest-wise on. Obviously, a lot more interesting than us talking about random shit and stuff like that. But thank you very much for tonight. I've been Matt Geary. With me has been John Joe Cosgrove.
Take care, everyone.
And Peter Ray Allison.
Goodbye, everyone, and look after each other.
Bye.